a couple of friends that call me he still, but mostly like before I moved here, I went to an all-girls school and kind of tried to get everybody there to call me he, because like I moved there and I didn't know anybody, and so I was like, okay, cool. Well, if I just start doing this from the get-go, maybe it'll be a lot easier. But no, like that just did not fly at all. Didn't work out. And just like being really insistent on it doesn't really make people, in my experience, remember it anymore. They're just like, wow, you're kind of abrasive. Gosh. But then, like I said, I'm bigendered, and so it doesn't really bother me as much anymore that I have a group of people that call me she and a group of people who know me as he. Like, I would prefer if there were more people that would call me he, but I don't know, it's kind of weird. My mom's met a couple of my trans friends, and she just can't, she's not like, or freaked out or anything, but she can't quite wrap her head around that idea at all. And so I just am probably not ever going to say anything. Like, I don't even want to go there. My family's Mormon. So, yeah, that wouldn't go over well. Most of my family already looks at me like a pretty big weirdo because I have, like, piercings and tattoos. And they're like, oh, my God, it's the lesbian. Oh, no. Hide the children.
I think, being raised with an Indian dad, I was exposed to the idea that transgender people aren't a new fad. It's not a trend. It's actually transgender people have been around for ancient times. I mean, across all the cultures in the world. So in India, they were called the Hijras. And so I grew up knowing that transgender people were a sacred part of our marriages. They blessed births. They were part of celebrations. And so it's very interesting to me I think it's more than interesting. It's like critical that we make sure that all youth know that transgender people have a legacy and a lineage.
In particular, the questioning label that we're keeping in the title, youth are going through different self-discovery bits in their life. When they're in schools, they're funneled in different directions. So it's important for there to be room for youth to question the system that's in place and the labels and the restrooms and just all the different things that they're expected to participate in based on gender. So the questioning place is a lot of times where they stay for a while and try to figure some things out, or get pushed into a corner where they feel like they have an unsafe place to go to school.
Basically, I mean, physically, definitely people see me and they see girl. Like, that's kind of impossible to avoid these days for me, because I'm just so tiny and I'm like really flamboyant and out there. And but I don't really identify as male or female is what that means. Or another word is gender fluid, which means it kind of fluctuates from day to day. There have been times in my life where I was very boy, and there have been times in my life where I've been very girl, and it just kind of goes back and forth. And the hardest thing has been able to be comfortable with that and be like, well, it's okay if, somebody thinks I'm a girl, because I'm not really not a girl, but it's really almost impossible for me to get other people to visually identify me as boy, and if they do, just because like I've never taken hormones or anything, I look like I'm 10. Like, everybody treats me like a little kid. It used to totally weird me out, like, just because it's like so all over the place, and like purposely not identifying yourself as anything it just sounds crazy. I mean, but it's been really cool because you can kind of be comfortable with whoever you are today, and if something changes, then you're still okay with that. Like, everything's gotten a lot more comfortable, like as far as like me with my body image and everything. Like, that's been really crazy, is just like, number one, being okay with the fact that I have boobs. Like, it's okay.
Just because I took hormones doesn't mean that somebody else has to take hormones. Like, that doesn't mean that's the only way you have to go. And like, if you want to say there's a list of everything you have to do, then I didn't complete that list because, I never had top surgery. And, I tried developing a girl voice, but then after a while I was just like, you know what, this is kind of stupid. So I never did. So I sound like a guy, but that doesn't really bother me.
I have a lot more people who identify like more as like one gender or the other than I do, but I have a lot of friends who in the trans community who understand it, and that's another thing is even in the trans community, if you tell people you're bigendered, sometimes they're like, you're full of crap, what are you talking about, you're not trans, you don't count. Yeah, and there's a certain amount of feeling threatened, I think, that happens when you do that, because there are people who work really, really hard to present an image as like, I'm this, and then if you come along and say, well, I'm trans, but I'm not going to bind, and I'm not going to take hormones, but I identify as trans, I think some people actually feel like you're kind of undoing all their hard work, almost. Like how, if you identify as male, how you're supposed to present yourself and how you're supposed to act. I'm just like, I'm sorry, like, there are stereotypes about, like, the way that a man's supposed to act, like you're supposed to be louder and take up more space, and just, it's ridiculous. I'm none of those things, like, no, but that doesn't mean that my identity isn't correct or that I'm not authentic, but I mean, I always tell people that I'm like a gay man trapped in a tiny girl's body, because totally, like, I will definitely queen out real fast.
I jokingly say I liked women so much that I wanted to be one, because like I grew up like just kind of liked girls the whole time, so I never really changed. I took hormones. I still like girls. I have a girlfriend now. She's awesome.
It's nothing too deep. It's nothing deep at all. I'm a boy. I'm a girl. I'm a young man. There's nothing more, nothing less to it. Everyone's experiences are different, so that doesn't make me anything more or less than what I'm telling you guys. It's who I am. I can't separate one from the other. It's what people see when they look at me. It's how I'm treated. It's the things that I do. It just makes me me.
About 14 years ago, when I first started teaching, a youth came to the school I was working at to enroll about halfway through the year, and the head counselor there and I had been talking about gender issues and transgender things because, you know, I was asserting my gender rights at home, and I had clued in, you know, the staff pretty much at work, but nobody was comfortable, you know, referring to me as he or Mr. So for a couple of years, I went by Corporal McNulty because I'd been in the military. They found that an acceptable compromise. Well, when this youth came in with an altered birth certificate, the counselor approached me and said, I know you've already got 3 mentees in the mentoring program. Can you take one more? And I said, okay. And the head counselor had told me, she said that this youth, you know, wasn't particularly identifying transgender. They were identifying male, and that she would like us to be mentor-mentee. The cool part about that for me, the reason I'm telling that story right now is because it shows how when the counselors are proactive and when the teaching staff is proactive in discussing issues around gender and such, we can make way for students that are coming, that are already there. Students need us to be aware of that.